Good day, everyone. Before we begin, I'd like you to think about a quick question. No need to answer out loud yet. Have you ever formed an impression of someone within the first 5 seconds of meeting them? Maybe you assumed they were confident, shy, intelligent, wealthy, or inexperienced, simply based on how they looked, spoke, or dressed. That instant judgment is your brain doing something very human. Today, we're going to talk about how those quick judgments, known as bias and stereotypes, shape workplace behavior in powerful ways. Even in organizations that strongly believe in fairness, equality, and merit-based success, bias continues to influence who gets hired, who gets promoted, who gets trusted, who gets listened to, and who gets left behind. Understanding this is essential for becoming ethical leaders, managers, and professionals. Part 1. What is bias really? Let's start with the foundation. Bias is a tendency to favor or judge certain groups over others. It operates in two major forms. Conscious bias. This is when people are aware of their preferences. For example, I trust people who graduated from top schools more. I think men handle pressure better than women. People may or may not admit these openly, but they know they hold them. Let me give you a real scenario. In a company, a senior leader is assigning someone to manage a crisis project with a difficult client. A woman on the team has handled similar high-pressure situations successfully before. But the leader says, let's give it to Mark. These negotiations get intense. Men usually handle pressure better. He believes this assumption. He knows he believes it. That is conscious bias. Unconscious bias. This is far more common and more dangerous. Unconscious bias happens automatically without awareness. Even people who strongly support equality can still associate leadership with men, associate technical skills with certain races, associate youth with innovation. These associations are learned from society, media, family, and culture. In a corporate meeting, two employees present ideas. A tall, confident man in a suit speaks first. Then a woman speaks, with the same level of expertise. Later, managers describe the man as natural leader, strong presence, and the woman as good contributor, but not leadership material yet. No one intended discrimination, but their brains automatically linked leadership with male appearance. That is unconscious bias. Stereotypes. Stereotypes, on the other hand, are specific assumptions about groups. Examples include women are emotional, immigrants are less competent, older workers resist technology, certain cultures are more disciplined. Our brains use these stereotypes to simplify reality, but they distort fairness. Why bias takes over under pressure? Here's something important to understand. The human brain is lazy, in a good way. It looks for shortcuts to save energy. When we are busy, tired, under stress, making fast decisions, our brains rely on stereotypes even more. This is called cognitive load. Under pressure, we stop analyzing deeply and start using mental shortcuts. Example, imagine this real situation. A human resources manager at a mid-sized company receives over 200 resumes for one marketing position. It's already 4:30 p.m. She still has meetings and deadlines. At first, she carefully reads each resume. After the first 40 or 50, she becomes tired. Now she starts scanning instead of reading. She quickly looks for familiar universities, names that sound familiar, big company logos. Resumes from unknown schools get skipped faster. Resumes with foreign-sounding names are unconsciously passed over. She doesn't think, I am discriminating. She thinks, I'm just being efficient. But that shortcut is where bias enters. In-group versus out-group humans naturally trust people who are similar to them. Same. Background, education, culture, gender, personality. We unconsciously feel safer with them. This leads to favoritism, even when no harm is intended. Here's another very common workplace situation. A department manager is choosing someone to join an important project team. There are two strong candidates. One went to the same university as the manager and enjoys the same hobbies. The other has slightly better performance reviews but comes from a different cultural background. The manager feels more comfortable with the first person. They say, I just feel we'll work better together. They don't say, I prefer people like me. But that's what's happening. That feeling of comfort is in-group bias. Where bias shows up in real workplaces, hiring bias refers to systematic, often unconscious preferences or prejudices that influence how employers evaluate job candidates, leading to unfair advantages for some applicants and disadvantages for others, even when qualifications are similar. Let's break it down clearly and fully. What is hiring bias? Simple definition. Hiring bias occurs when non-job related factors affect hiring decisions, such as name, gender, age, race or ethnicity, accent or nationality, school prestige instead of actual skills, personal similarity to the interviewer. Instead of choosing the most qualified candidate, decisions are influenced by assumptions or stereotypes. Types of hiring bias, very common in real life. 1. Unconscious, implicit, bias. People don't realize they have. Examples: assuming younger candidates are more tech-savvy, believing men are better for leadership roles, thinking someone with an accent is less competent. Most hiring bias happens here, not intentionally. 2. Affinity bias, people like me bias. Hiring someone because they went to the same school, share culture, religion, interests, feel like a good fit. Example: I just connected with him more, even if another candidate is stronger. 3. Confirmation bias. Once an interviewer forms a first impression, they only notice information that supports it. Example: think candidate is weak, focus on small mistakes. Think candidate is strong, ignore flaws. 4. Halo and horn effect. Halo: one good trait makes everything seem good. Horn: one negative trait ruins perception. Example: attractive or confident. Aches: assumed smarter. Nervous: assumed incompetent. 5. Name and resume bias. Research consistently shows white-sounding names get more callbacks. Older applicants get fewer interviews. Foreign-sounding names are penalized, even with identical resumes. Why hiring bias is a serious problem. It leads to unfair opportunities, less diverse workplaces, lower organizational performance, legal risks, discrimination claims, talent being overlooked. Studies consistently show male candidates preferred for leadership roles, women overlooked in STEM fields, older applicants screened out, foreign names less likely to receive interview calls. Here is a real-life example, even when qualifications are identical. A startup was hiring a project coordinator, a woman with strong experience, excellent references, and proven performance applied. During the interview, she was professional but quiet. Another applicant was a man with less experience but very confident and talkative. Afterward, managers said, "She's qualified, but I don't think she fits our culture." They hired the man. Later, the man struggled with the workload. Culture fit became a polite way of masking gender and personality bias. Promotion bias. Promotion bias is closely related to hiring bias, but it happens after someone is already in the organization, when decisions about raises, leadership roles, tenure, or advancement are influenced by unfair assumptions rather than actual performance. What is promotion bias? Promotion bias occurs when employees are not promoted based purely on merit, but instead on factors such as gender, race or ethnicity, age, nationality or accent, personal relationships, cultural fit, stereotypes about leadership. It results in equally or more qualified people being overlooked. Who advances often depends on who seems like a leader, who fits company culture, who is socially connected, not always who performs best. Certain groups are judged more harshly and given fewer chances. Ponder on this situation. A manufacturing firm was promoting a department supervisor. A woman had successfully managed teams for years with no major problems. A man applying had similar results, but had made several mistakes. In discussion, managers said, "She's good, but we need someone exceptional for this role." For the man, they said, "He has great potential." The man was promoted. The woman was expected to prove herself more than him. That is a classic bias pattern. Higher standards for women. Resource bias. Resource bias happens when access to important organizational resources is distributed unfairly, favoring some individuals or groups over others, not because of performance or need, but due to bias, favoritism, or structural inequality. This is especially relevant in workplaces, universities, and public institutions, areas you work in regularly, because resources directly affect success, promotion, research output, and long-term opportunity. Let's explain it clearly. What is resource bias? Plain meaning. Resource bias is when some people consistently receive better tools, funding, support, time, or opportunities than others, for reasons unrelated to merit. Resources can include training opportunities, research funding or grants, mentorship, high visibility projects, office space and equipment, teaching loads, lighter versus heavier, administrative support, professional development funds. This includes training opportunities, mentorship, high visibility projects, bias in performance reviews. Bias in performance reviews is a common and often hidden problem that can affect fairness, morale, promotions, and even legal risk in organizations and universities. Since you work in academic administration and faculty evaluation, this is especially relevant to teaching assessments, staff appraisals, and accreditation documentation. Here's a clear practical breakdown. What is bias in performance reviews? Bias happens when evaluations are influenced by subjective perceptions rather than actual performance, outcomes, and evidence. Instead of asking, "Did this person meet objectives?" bias leads to, "How do I feel about this person?" Similarity bias, like me bias, favoring people who share background, culture, beliefs, or personality. Example, giving higher ratings to staff who communicate like you or share your academic training. 5. Gender and cultural bias, different standards applied unconsciously. Examples, men praised for leadership, women criticized as too assertive. International faculty seen as less confident due to accent. 6. Leniency or harshness bias. Some evaluators rate everyone too high or too low. This destroys the accuracy of performance systems. Why bias is dangerous, especially in universities and institutions. Bias can lead to unfair promotions, low staff morale, loss of strong faculty employees, accreditation risks, tracks BPPE expect objective evaluation systems, potential discrimination complaints. How to reduce bias in performance reviews. 1. Use clear rubrics and metrics, not just opinions. Example, teaching effectiveness, student outcomes, peer observation, syllabus quality, research, publications, grants, presentations, administration, deadlines met, compliance tasks completed. 2. Require evidence. Each rating should link to documented results, reports, measurable outcomes. 3. Train evaluators on bias awareness. Simply knowing these biases reduces them significantly. 4. Use multiple reviewers when possible, reduces one person's subjectivity. 5. Review over the whole year. Use logs or quarterly check-ins to avoid recency bias. Discussion questions. Great for class or training. You could ask students or staff. 1. Have you ever felt unfairly judged at work or school? Why? 2. Which type of bias do you think is most common? 3. Should performance be measured only by numbers? Why or why not? 4. How can institutions make reviews more fair? Bottom line, performance reviews should measure behavior and results, not personality, familiarity, or feelings. Bias turns evaluations into opinions instead of professional assessments. Part 5. Bias inside teams. Bias affects daily collaboration. This affects trust, communication, project involvement, conflict, and voice. Some people are heard more. Others are interrupted, ignored, or dismissed. This often follows gender, race, or nationality lines. Part 6. Leadership and Opportunity Access. Although organizations claim neutrality, informal systems dominate. Examples include sponsorship based on comfort rather than merit, big projects given to safe choices, leadership associated with certain appearances. This explains why executive positions often lack diversity. Bias is not just an organizational problem. It has real human consequences that affect people's careers, mental health, dignity, and life opportunities. In workplaces, universities, and performance systems, like the ones you deal with at Western Covenant University, the human cost is often invisible but very deep. Here's a clear, human-centered discussion. The human costs of bias. 1. Emotional harm and loss of confidence. When people are judged unfairly, they often begin to doubt themselves, even when they are competent and hardworking. Common feelings include shame, anxiety, frustration, maybe I'm not good enough, thinking. Over time, this leads to low self-esteem and burnout. 2. Mental health strain. Repeated exposure to bias can cause chronic stress, depression, emotional exhaustion, fear of speaking up. People may overwork to prove themselves or withdraw completely. 5. Internalized bias. Victims may begin to believe the stereotypes about them. Example, people like me are just not leadership material. Maybe my background makes me less capable. This is one of the most damaging long-term effects. 6. Impact on families and communities. Unfair reviews can mean lost income, job loss, delayed promotions, stress at home. The emotional weight spreads beyond the workplace. The ethical cost to institutions. When bias exists, trust disappears, integrity is questioned, morale drops, conflict rises. Eventually, institutions suffer reputational and legal harm. Why this matters: big picture. Bias, quietly, wastes human potential, reinforces inequality, rewards favoritism, hurts the most vulnerable. In one sentence, the human cost of bias is not just unfair ratings. It is broken confidence, stalled lives, emotional suffering, and lost talent. The business cost. Bias is expensive. It causes lower productivity, less innovation, talent loss, toxic culture. Inclusive organizations consistently outperform biased ones. Diversity alone isn't enough. Inclusion is what drives performance. What actually reduces bias? Bias doesn't disappear because people mean well. What reliably reduces bias is a combination of data, accountability, skill building, and structural design, plus ongoing monitoring so improvements don't fade. Below is a thorough explanation of each solution area, with concrete examples you can use in workplaces or universities. 1. Data and accountability core idea. Bias thrives in the dark. When decisions and outcomes are tracked, patterns become visible, and people behave more fairly because they know decisions must be justified. What to track and why it matters. A. Hiring decisions. Applicant pool demographics, who applied. Interview pool demographics, who got shortlisted. Offer rates, who got offers. Acceptance rates, who accepts and why. Why this reduces bias. It shows where the leaks happen. You might discover that many applicants from Group X apply, but almost none make it past the first screen, meaning bias is likely happening at screening, not later. Example, a university hires adjunct faculty. Data shows 40% of applicants are international scholars, 35% reach interview stage, only 5% receive offers. This points to bias in later stages. Interviews, fit, not applicant quality. B. Promotions. Who is nominated? Who is selected? Time to promotion by group. Promotion reasons recorded in writing. Example, 2 staff members meet requirements. One is promoted because leadership potential. The other is told needs more visibility. Tracking reveals leadership potential is used more often for certain groups and less for others, signaling a subjective bias phrase. C. Pay gaps. Starting salary differences. Raises over time. Merit increases versus cost of living. pay by role, plus tenure, plus performance rating. Why important? Even small annual gaps compound into big life impacts. Example, 2 employees hired same year, same role, similar performance. One negotiated higher pay at entry, often correlated with culture, gender. Without correction, pay inequality persists for years. Tracking forces a fair adjustment system. D. Performance ratings. Distribution of ratings by supervisor, ratings by department, role, demographics, ratings tied to objective evidence, outputs, outcomes, behaviors. Example, one supervisor gives nearly everyone needs improvement, harshness bias. Another gives everyone exceeds, leniency bias. Data identifies rater effects so you can calibrate. Accountability mechanisms that work. Tracking alone isn't enough. You need action triggers. Effective accountability looks like written justification required for low ratings, denial of promotion, or termination. Calibration meetings to compare rating standards across supervisors. Review panels for high-stakes decisions. Promotion discipline. Scorecards for departments, not to punish, to detect patterns and fix processes. Example of a trigger. If any subgroup receives below expectations at 2x the rate of others, HR Academic Affairs reviews the evidence and the rubric usage. 2. Effective training core idea. Quick check the box. Bias training does little. Effective programs change behavior by building awareness, plus skills, plus accountability, plus practice, not just knowledge. What doesn't work well? One-time webinars, generic slides with definitions. Don't be biased. Messaging without practice. Training with no changes to systems. People may leave knowing the vocabulary, but still revert to habit under stress. What does work and why? A. Long-term programs. Bias reduction is a practice like teaching or leadership. Example, training structure, realistic. Month 1, recognizing bias patterns, plus self-assessment. Month 2, structured interviewing and evidence-based evaluations. Month 3, feedback language practice, plus calibration. Month 4, handling conflict, documenting performance fairly, quarterly refreshers, plus evaluation audits. B, real scenarios, not abstract theory. People learn better with cases that match their environment. Examples of scenarios to train on. A staff member with an accent is rated not confident. A faculty member is described as difficult for setting boundaries. A friendly employee gets rewarded over a more productive but quieter one. Culture fit used to exclude people who are different. Then trainees must. 1. Identify the bias. 2. Rewrite the evaluation in evidence-based language. 3. Apply the rubric correctly. C. Self-reflection, guided, not shaming. Self-reflection works when it's structured and safe. Tools. When do I rely on intuition instead of evidence? Which behaviors irritate me and why? Do I reward style, confidence, extroversion over substance, results? Example, a supervisor realizes they equate quick speaking with competence, disadvantaging cautious communicators. D. Intergroup contact bias decreases when people meaningfully collaborate across groups with shared goals. Examples, cross-department committees, co-teaching teams, mixed peer review panels, mentoring pairs across backgrounds. This reduces stereotypes because people replace assumptions with real experience. 3. Structural changes. Core idea. The most powerful bias reduction isn't asking people to be perfect, it's designing systems that make fairness the default. A. Standardized interviews. Instead of "tell me about yourself" vibes, use same questions for all candidates. Scoring anchors. What counts as a 1, 3, 5? Independent scoring before discussion. Documented evidence tied to job criteria. Example, hiring for faculty. Instead of "do we like them?" you score. Instructional design quality. Clarity of assessment methods, alignment with learning outcomes, student engagement strategies. This reduces similarity bias and fit bias. B. Clear evaluation rubrics. Performance reviews should translate expectations into observable evidence. Rubric example, communication. Weak, nice, professional, polite. Too vague. Better, O responds to student inquiries within X time. O provides feedback with clear criteria. O communicates deadlines and policies accurately. O documents advising sessions. Why this reduces bias. You stop grading personality and start grading behaviors. C. Blind resume screening. Remove signals that activate bias. Name, address, nationality cues, graduation year, age proxy, photos, where applicable. Example, first round screen only sees qualifications, experience, portfolio samples, teaching statement quality. This prevents early halo horn judgments. D. Inclusive language policies and evidence-based writing. Many biased reviews rely on vague labels. Common bias terms and better alternatives. Not a good fit. Did not meet criterion X based on evidence Y. Too aggressive. Interrupted colleagues in meetings twice. Needs turn-taking norms. Emotional, raised voice, expressed frustration, impact on team documented. Unprofessional, define the behavior, context, and policy example. Rewrite. Biased, she's abrasive and hard to work with. Evidence-based, in 3 meetings, she rejected proposals without offering alternatives. Next step, use structured critique format, identify issue, plus propose alternative, plus invite feedback. 4. Continuous monitoring core idea. Bias returns when attention fades. New leaders arrive, workload increases, people revert to shortcuts. Fairness is not a one-time project, it's a maintenance system. What continuous monitoring looks like. A. Regular audits, quarterly or annual review of ratings distribution, promotion outcomes by department, pay adjustments, review, language audit of performance comments, vague versus evidence-based. Example, an audit finds certain supervisors use more personality words, pleasant, difficult, emotional, rather than evidence and outcomes. They receive coaching and templates. B. Calibration meetings. Departments meet to align what meets expectations actually means. Example, one department treats meets as excellent, another treats it as barely acceptable. Calibration prevents unfair comparisons and promotion inequality. C. Feedback loops. Ask employees, students. Were expectations clear? Did you receive feedback during the year, not just at the end? Was the review evidence-based? Important? This isn't a popularity contest. This checks whether the process is fair and transparent. Putting it together, what a bias-resistant system looks like. A strong system has 1. Data tracking, outcomes are visible. 2. Accountability, decisions require evidence. 3. Effective training, people practice skills with real scenarios. 4. Structural design, rubrics, plus standardized processes. 5. Monitoring, audits, plus calibration, plus updates. That's what actually reduces bias, not motivational posters.